Fighters coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome to BrickVault. Today we are building some of the most iconic vehicles from the Star Wars universe. We've got a couple of TIE fighters coming down the line, as well as a TIE Interceptor. The TIE fighter is basically the most iconic, one of the most iconic vehicles or starships to have ever come from the Star Wars universe. We do have the instructions available at our web store, BrickVault.toys. It is perfect minifig scale to the original trilogy, and the TIE Fighter as well as the TIE Interceptor were both designed by a very, very talented builder, Jarek. I'm really excited because we're about to have basically the best version, in my opinion, honestly, the best version of a TIE Fighter, TIE Interceptor to ever have been designed for LEGO. So anyways, let's get started. I think I'm gonna start off organizing the pieces first and then build the TIE Fighters first and the Interceptor afterwards. So now let's get started. Alright, so not including the organizing of the bricks in the beginning, I would say that this total build went a little over 5 hours to get all three of the TIE models done. And respectively, I'd say the two TIE fighters back to back was around 3.5 hours, while the TIE Interceptor was just a little bit over 1.5 hours to complete. That's not too bad considering each of these ships is around 750 parts. And the build went smooth as can be thanks to the easy to follow instructions that you will get when ordering the model from BrickVault.toys. That, and of course the parts list. Now right off the bat, I want to address the question that people sometimes have, which is, why do you make custom built MOCs of ships that LEGO already makes sets of? And when you see our fighter next to the standard LEGO built fighters, the quality of difference here is just massive. The basic rule that we have here at BrickVault is that when you build one of our custom MOCs, you're getting the most accurate LEGO version of that model that exists. Period. Now let's jump into the TIE Fighter builds first before the Interceptor, and what you might have just noticed when comparing the sets to the MOC, the main difference here is the build for the wings. Looking at them close up, you can see that they're just stacked on top of each other, and you're just looking at the side of some regular LEGO bricks with some slope pieces kind of put in there to get the shape to work out. And I think anybody can agree that this particular build design choice is way better than anything we would get from a standard set, and it's also, I've never seen this particular style used in any other MOC version of the TIE Fighter. Now, if you watched the previous video with Jarek's other TIE Fighter, you'll know that that same build style was employed, and the biggest difference, the redesign, is both in the overall stature of the ship, and subsequently to go along with that, the shape of the cockpit was expanded, and now you can fit a pilot on the inside. So let's focus on the cockpit first. That's where you can see a lot of the main differences. The entire design of the cockpit has been completely changed from what the original version of this TIE Fighter looked like, but it's great to see that those round corner dome pieces from the original version of this TIE Fighter are still here on this one. It's a unique aspect of this build style that really makes the round version of this cockpit so much different from any of the other MOCs or sets that I've seen before, and it's awesome that the expansion and redesign has still managed to hold them in. The sort of rounded eyeball shape of the cockpit wouldn't really be the same without these rounded corners, and even at larger scales like the UCS TIE Fighter still didn't manage to round out the cockpit in such a clever way. Now, of course, you can fit a minifig, but it's kind of funny, you can't fit them in through the top. In order to have structural stability, the top hatch just had to be sacrificed, and the minifig actually comes in through the front windscreen. Before the figure goes in, though, you can sort of see a little bit of the interior. I like that Jarek added some nice red plates on the inside, so you can see there is a little bit more detailing going on for the cockpit area. And for the most part, this isn't such an important part of a MOC for me. but it's nice being able to actually fit your pilot inside the ship and having a pretty good amount of detail to go along with the interior. Now let's move to the back of the TIE Fighter, where you can find some kind of fun and clever design choices that I think you guys might find pretty interesting. Personally, I love how the shape is created for the reactor in the back. It's rounded over with those nice little cheese wedge pieces creating that kind of diamond shape. And then there was a fun way to get that red to poke through for the twin ion engines. Remember, TIE Fighter, standing for twin ion engines, we've got both of them on either side, and you can see just a little bit of red poking through. And what you're seeing is actually a little arm of a modified plate coming through a smaller stud. Fun little design choice. It fits right in. There's also a kind of interesting connection point where the top hatch fits to the cockpit. Now, just like the last TIE MOC, there's a really interesting way the studs sort of fit against each other and kind of lock themselves into place. Not just lock the arms into place, but also lock the subsequent giant fanning wings onto the arms as well. Now, looking back at the TIE Fighter in its overall shape, you can see the proportions really do work out quite nicely. And very quickly touching on the scale, like I said, it has been scaled up. And I said specifically, this is minifigure scale to the original trilogy size. Once we were doing a little bit more research into minifig scale for Star Wars ships, we realized that Star Wars scales change all the time. The ships actually change different sizes between the movies, expanded universe stuff. I mean, the TIE Fighter has changed size, believe it or not, plenty of times. So Jarek, the designer, decided to go along with what the original models were shaped like and how they were supposed to scale against pilots from the universe they were designed for in studio. So yes, to clarify, these are perfectly minifig scale accurate to the original trilogy shape for the TIE Fighter, and personally I think that is the best way to honor this classic ship. Now let's move on to the next design, and one of my personal favorite ships from the Star Wars universe. This is the TIE Interceptor. It's a faster, sleeker fighter that first makes its appearance in Star Wars Return of the Jedi in the final Battle of Endor, and personally I think it's one of the more underserved fighter vehicles that never really gets a proper set in Lego form. Well, certainly the vehicle doesn't have any good recent iterations, that's for sure. Now, getting into the details of the Interceptor, the cockpit and arms are very similar, almost the same build as the TIE Fighters, which makes sense. I believe that would be the same way within universe. So let's focus a little bit on the build style that ended up creating this awesome shape for the wings. A great thing to note here is that every other iteration of the Interceptor made in either MOC format or Lego set format never really gets the angle of the sort of curved in wings perfectly accurate. Oftentimes ratcheted joint pieces are used and it gets close enough. It's either a little too wide or a little bit too narrow. But if you take a look at the original models of the TIE Interceptor and what we have here in Lego form, it is like a perfectly accurate angle. It's kind of amazing. There's a series of clip plate pieces, pretty simple build style actually, that creates the angle, and it's super solid because you have pressure from clips on the inside of the wing as well as the outside. So once they're locked in place, they're not going anywhere. And the next coolest part of the Interceptor for sure is how we got these nice pointed wings to come forward in the front. This part of the build was actually really fun. It's a little bit more challenging to kind of get these black triangles to kind of fit in with different studs at different angles. And we have a very interesting sort of connection point that wraps the gray outlining section of the wings to wrap sort of perfectly around this shape. Towards the front tip, you can see how the little black point has been created. And also now you can see sort of a closer look at some of the wing blasters. They're on the end of each of these points. And I like the use of those sort of top plated hinge pieces that kind of give the impression that the wing blaster builds a little bit further into the body of the ship. Now on the inner section of this ship, we have what look like could be other laser cannons. From what I can tell on a diagram of the Interceptor, I believe these are targeting sensors. And you can see sort of on the outside center of the wing, it's a little bit smoother and there's a lot less sort of greebling like we would have on the outside of the TIE Fighter wing. And that's to match up with the design of the Interceptor itself. The outside of the wing is a little bit cleaner, while when you look at the inner connection points, there's a lot more external connection points that we would see from the original model as well. Now, I said the cockpit is pretty much the same design as the TIE Fighter. I just do want to show you that you can indeed get a minifigure on the inside of the TIE Interceptor, and the interior pretty much looks the same for the cockpit. Also, when you see the back of the sort of eyeball part of the cockpit, the build is essentially identical, where you can see how the top hatch attaches and the twin ion engines, pretty much all of it's the same. Now let's pull back and look at both of the designs, all three of the builds together. And I've been thinking long and hard about whether whether or not I should say this, but I really do feel like these are the best TIE fighters. This is the best TIE Interceptor Lego MOC, Lego design for these ships out there. I know at the end of the day, that is a very subjective thing to say, but I've seen all the sets. We have a massive amount of the sets, actually. I've seen all of the custom MOCs of these ships, at least all the ones I could possibly find on the internet, and I honestly believe hands down these are the best builds out there. Obviously, there's a few aspects of the design here that we do differently that puts these ships a little bit ahead of the curve. Namely, the wing design I think is the best. It captures the look of the ship more accurately, and it looks better aesthetically as a Lego build. And also just the entire design for the cockpit looks better in the more rounded fashion. And the builds themselves, though their display models are absolutely rock solid, very swooshable still, and we're total sticklers to the accuracy of size and scale, and I love that these have been scaled to the original sizes for what they should be from the original Star Wars trilogy. So hands down, I'm gonna say they're the best. Without question, these are my favorite TIE fighters that I've ever seen in the Lego format. And again, if you want to get the instructions and parts list for them, they are available at our website, BrickVault.toys. At the end of the day, nothing gets put up in our website unless we think it is the absolute best possible version of that model that we think can be made from Lego. And I recommend that you guys check us out online at BrickVault.toys. There you can also find some links to Jarek, the original designer who has many more excellent creations. All right, so that is it for this episode, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Remember to check out our web store, BrickVault.toys. And if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.